The following program is available 24/7 on YouTube, GodTube, and at livingwithvictory.org. It's time for Living with Victory, a program of hope and encouragement brought to you by Living with Victory Ministries and listeners like you. In a moment, we'll join your hosts, Laureen and Tony Giorgio, for today's message of perseverance and hope.
So if life has left you kicking up dust, keep listening, keep looking up and grab your umbrella, get ready to sing in the rain. Get ready, God in His goodness is gathering showers of grace. Get ready to sing in the rain.
Hi, this is Tony Giorgio. Welcome to another edition of Living with Victory, where life isn't about waiting for the storms to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain in the midst of your storms, because Jesus is your umbrella. Hey, every Sunday morning, want to remind you, at 8 a.m., we are right here on WPTL 101.7 FM, streaming live so you can tell your friends no matter where they are, they can hear us. I also want to invite you to check out our website, livingwithvictory.org. There you can link up to YouTube. If you missed the Sunday morning broadcast, you can go 7 days a week to YouTube or GodTube and pick up the programs. They're always on there. And send prayer requests, praise reports, comments. We'd love to hear from you. Seriously, if you want to, you can give us a call. You can write. You know, you don't have email or computer access, you can go to P.O. Box 1982 in Maggie Valley, 28751. Remember that donations are what runs this ministry, and if you want to make a donation by mail or on PayPal, you can do that on the website. Today, what we have is a free book for you. We constantly, through our hope and encouragement, give you books, devotionals. That's something else that's on the website. Today, I'm offering a book by Franklin Graham and Donna Lee Tony. And the title is Rocks, Dirty Birds, and Briars, Sowing Truth in a Time of Lies. And boy, do we have that going. Just to give you an overview, in the parable of the sower, Jesus foretold all ways the world would try to reject God's word. The rocks will be thrown at the righteous, it says. Dirty birds will try to steal your peace and assurance, and briars will try to choke out the clear truth with noise and confusion. My goodness, we have plenty of that going on today, I would say, right? These words are more relevant today, Franklin says, than ever before, as we face a world in turmoil where everyone chooses their own truth and believers are mocked. So pick up the book. We'll leave it at the station, and you can call in right now to the station and pick it up there. And the number is 828-648-3576 or 648-3577. The first 5 callers, we have Franklin Graham's book. So be sure to call in, and we'll leave them at the station for you. Pick it up Monday through Friday. And now, my co-host, who does have the word of the day and the topic, and my lovely sidekick for almost 53 years. Wow. Yeah, you got nothing to say about that, do you? No. This is my lovely wife, Laureen.
Good morning, everyone. It is so good to be here today to speak about our Lord, and we just thank you for joining us. The topic today is, will we come forth as gold? Hebrews 6:12, and this is the Amplified Bible Classic Edition. In order that you may not grow disinterested and become spiritual sluggards, but imitators, behaving as do those who through faith by their leaning of the entire personality on God in Christ in absolute trust and confidence in his power, wisdom, and goodness, and by practice of patience, endurance, and waiting are now inheriting the promises. This is a devotional by Mrs. Charles E. Cowman, and I'm reading March 4th. They, heroes of faith, are calling to us from the heights that they have won and telling us that what man once did, man can do again. Not only do they remind us of the necessity of faith, but also of that patience by which faith has its perfect work. Let us fear to take ourselves out of the hands of our heavenly guide, or to miss a single lesson of his loving discipline by discouragement or doubt. There is only one thing, said a village blacksmith, that I fear, and that is to be thrown on the scrap heap. When I am tempering a piece of steel, I first heat it, hammer it, and then suddenly plunge it into the bucket of cold water. I very soon find whether it will take temper or go to pieces in the process. When I discover after 1 or 2 tests that it is not going to allow itself to be tempered, I throw it on the scrap heap and sell it for a cent a pound when the junkman comes around. So I find the Lord tests me too by fire and water and heavy blows of his heavy hammer. And if I am willing to stand the test, or am not going to prove a fit subject for his tempering process, I am afraid he may throw me on the scrap heap. When the fire is hottest, hold still, for there will be a blessed afterward. And with Job, we may be able to say, when he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold. Sainthood springs out of suffering. It takes 11 tons of pressure on a piano to tune it. God will tune you to harmonize with heaven's keynote if you can stand the strain. Things that hurt and things that mar shape the man for perfect praise. Shock and strain and ruin are friendlier than the smiling days. It is amazing how God does test us. When those trials and challenges and downright suffering hit us, we tend to think, what now? Why? What is the purpose of this? We begin to ask God why, and sometimes start to blame and complain. But God thinks, oh, my child, how much I love you. You will never, never know. I am allowing this in your life because of the love I have for you. I know what you can be and how wonderful and loving you can become. The only way I can increase your endurance and patience, which will increase your brotherly love, is to give you this storm.
Can I go back to the blacksmith? In high school, I guess it was high school, I took shop, of all people, all thumbs I got, and we were going to make a chisel. Took a round piece of iron, and we heated it in the furnace to the point where that piece of iron glowed with the heat. I had this heavy hammer, and when I took the piece of iron out, I pounded it for all I was worth. I slammed that thing, I don't know how many times. And what was happening was I could see where I was hitting on the end was coming together almost to a point. I mean, it had melted to that point that it was softened so that you can work this piece of iron, which would get thrown in the scrap, like he said. We kept hitting it to do something with it that would be useful. And what came out of it, it was a chisel. When I cooled it down and all, I had hit it hard enough and long enough that it was softened to the point where it could be used.
God is trying to get us to the point where he can use us for his purpose.
I can honestly say, and so could Laureen, as well as Job.
Yes.
Okay. The pounding and the slamming, and you're knocked from one wall to the other. But there's a purpose in it, because for all that we've been hit, we always came up. When I was a teenager, there was a point in my life where my mother actually crossed the street not to walk on the same side of the street as me. And I know that I wasn't a honey bunny. I was a despicable teenager. And you meeting me today would say, oh, no, this is a good man.
God knew even at that time when you were growing up and you were doing what you were doing, even though it wasn't appealing in his sight, he knew your potential. But he also knew what it was going to take to bring that potential out.
Iron is really hard, isn't it? And
and so is the head
and
sometimes.
So is this. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. She's right. You know, I've been pounded a few times. I know that all that pounding when I was younger, and I got pounded physically quite a bit, it made me different inside, where it was his spirit filling me, not my own. He was cleaning out the junk, and I didn't want to get thrown on the heap.
You know, when we're going through these storms and being pounded the way God chooses to shape us, we don't realize that he's there every step of the way. See, God has a finished product he's looking at. And he's going to do whatever it takes. We love pottery.
Yeah.
But look what that potter has to do to that piece of clay.
Oh, yeah. Believe me.
He gets that blob of clay on the wheel, and we are that blob.
Right.
Because without God, we are a blob. We have no sense of where we're going. We have no sense of right and wrong. He is our guide. We need him. He will spin and squeeze and tear away.
That's right.
And yeah, that hurts.
Exactly. And you know, I have to tell you, when this is happening, you think, oh, God, why? If we didn't go through all the things we went through, I mean, you name it, we've been there. If you know the stories between losses, financial losses, sickness, but we wouldn't be able to talk to you about it either.
That's
I
right.
wouldn't say a word because I don't know. I've never been through it.
When you are sitting with someone who has lost a loved one, if you have never lost a loved one, you say the usual things that come to mind. But when you have experienced that loss and that grief, you could be a little more sensitive to the person you're trying to comfort.
That reminds me quickly of my own dad, okay?
Yes.
My father, who I loved dearly, okay? We were so close, was coming to visit. He was going to take a trip down that week, see us on Friday. The day after the phone call I got that he was coming down, I get a phone call that he died of a stroke. And I never got to say goodbye to him. I didn't see him again. I know if you're grieving, I know what you're going through. In the sense of the loss, to me, was even greater than somebody who was sick and you expect him to die. That's something else. It's also awful. But the unexpected death of a loved one, it's a little bit different. I shoulda, coulda, woulda, and you can't.
God's purpose of allowing us to go through these stressful times. And I'm not saying that they're pleasant because, boy, they can really hurt. You know, when we're going through them, we have a choice. We're either going to come out bitter or we're going to come out better for it. Yes. God's purpose is for us to come out better.
We would have never, ever been able to conquer the advocacy for the children that we worked with for 30 years, or the law that we helped to pass to help them out without turning lights off. All of that came out of our struggle.
Exactly.
And our knowing what it's like to be on state aid, to be disabled.
That time when we were in Orlando, when all these things were again hitting us, one right after the other, explaining about his father's death, not having the job, again, no money, and so many other things that were happening. But yet Compassion Children's Foundation was born out of that chaos.
Strife and grief, right?
A lot of families received so much help, and we went on. But God knew what he wanted us to do, but he had to get us in position, and he had to get us on that potter's wheel.
Exactly.
You know, and it was all a test.
Yeah.
But you know, the privilege of being tested by God is that then he says, you passed the test, my child. Here are your promises.
Exactly. Let's take a little break and a reminder here again. And before I forget, we're getting a lot closer to this. Starting on April 15th, Laureen and I are going to do a 1 minute of hope and encouragement on the Gospel Hour right here on WPTL Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And you can listen up on the Gospel Hour. So that's coming up April 15th, where we will be broadcasting a 1 minute snippet for you to get a little bit of encouragement into your day, okay? And also, I want to remind you about the website, livingwithvictory.org, that you can go to, or, like I say, many of you may not have a computer, write to us. P.O. Box 1982, Maggie Valley, North Carolina, 28751. And we always want to mention our friends over at the Shell station at Teague, Superette, and Shell in Maggie Valley, who are partnering with us to collect funds to buy gas cards for seriously ill children. Stop by over there and you can have lunch, breakfast. They got a great breakfast sandwich over there. I got to tell you, it's really something. And it's at 130 Soco Road on Route 276. And they have been such a blessing to us. I really appreciate Derek and Leah. All right, and don't forget, we do have that book. You have to be the fifth caller if you haven't tried it, okay? Call us in here at the studio, okay?
Necessity is the mother of invention. When you have something that you're trying to work with, or you have to come up with something, it's not a comfortable thing. You have to go through something in order to get whatever you're trying to accomplish done. It doesn't come easy. Nothing that is worthwhile comes easy. I remember the glass blowing.
Oh,
at
yes.
Disney.
At Disney,
those
yeah.
beautiful, delicate little pieces. They look so fragile.
Yeah.
And you can't believe the lump of glass that glass blower puts in this fire, and what he puts that poor piece of glass
and it's
through.
a glob, and
So, the point is, God knows when God is doing it, he knows how much we could take. He has a way out already planned, and he does have a purpose. He does have a purpose.
And he's a partner Monday through Saturday, not just on Sundays and Wednesday nights. That's just your fueling station. But he walks with you, and he does talk. There's a hymn. No, he walks with me. But it's true, though. He does. Because talking to you. When I was a kid, I took this thing, real quick, I'm just thinking about it, on how, what you can do and what you could become and all of that. Took this aptitude test, whatever it was. Mind you, I was a miserable character. Could never, lucky if I get out of high school type thing. It targeted me for becoming a community leader, a preacher, what else? And a speaker, all right?
Also going into politics.
And going into politics.
And thank God you didn't go that way.
Well, I went a little bit, but I didn't go all the way. But it came to pass. That's God talking to you. He was leading, and I thought I was finished. I wouldn't be able to find a job. Nobody liked me. I was a miserable character. And yet, here it is, God, 50 years later, and all of the above took place in my life. But I let go and let God. Not easy. Sometimes it's like, and I feel it, especially lately. I mean, like you're up against a wall and you can't move forward, but you're trying to move forward. Let him move you forward. Know that you got a partner. That's important.
You never know what he has put inside of you and what you can accomplish. He is saying to you, I will be with you every step of the way. It is my hope that you will pass this test because I am looking forward to giving you my promises. He's a loving God. He wants to give us that. He's not putting you through this to be mean and torture you. He's putting you through this because he knows what he has for you, and he wants to give it to you. But sometimes because we resist that test, instead of going with it and saying, Lord, I don't understand, but I'm going to go through with you until you open my eyes to see why you're allowing this, and receive those promises. That's when you get your full reward until we get home. But when we resist is when then we become miserable and bitter and feel that God is being mean to you, and he is not trying to be mean to you because he loves you. He loves you so much that he is putting you through this. The Bible says he will chastise his children whom he loves because he wants to get you in a place where you will grow and trust him more, so that the final reward is going home and seeing him face to face.
That's right. That's what it's all about. We're just passing through. And like he says through this whole thing, the only way I can increase your endurance and patience, which will increase your brotherly love, is to give you the storm. It's just a part of life. Like we say, it's not just a catchy phrase, but life isn't about waiting for the storms to pass. You got to go through them. But it's how you go through them. Don't go through them alone. Jesus is your umbrella. Take his hand. Hold it. He waits for you. You know how many times we turned the other way and said, oh, we're going to do it this way. The world said to do, I got to go make money. I got to do this, or I got to do that. Well, man, that's why we're here on the air. The stories we have are our lives in jeopardy half the times, and how we did not listen to him, went our own way, when we realize he was there all the time.
Exactly.
Very, very important. We're not here to entertain you. We're telling you, if you look at me, you know the storms I've been weathering all along. But it was worth it, because I can tell you, take it from me, it's going to hurt for a little while, but it works itself out. We're here, we're standing through all kinds of things. I can't even express.
Even through the storms, though, if you take time and you're really so close to the Lord and walking with Jesus, you can actually see. He opens your eyes and you become so sensitive to his loving nature, and you start to see the blessings. They may be very small.
Right.
It's times like when I'm really feeling down and I sit down in my chair in my living room and I'm praying and I say, Lord, I need to know if I'm going in the right direction. And all of a sudden, and I know he does it every time, the sun will come out very, very strong to say, here it is, child.
Yep.
You've got it. You're going right.
That's
but if
right.
I'm not going right, he'll let me know that too, which I appreciate, because I don't want to hurt him.
And, as he said with Job, and I equate this to the chisel I made. He said, as my servant Job declared, when he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold. When you get pounded, you're going to become something valuable
Exactly.
in this world to your Lord and to humanity. That pounding shouldn't be diminishing you. It's making you stronger.
And it's giving you endurance, it's giving you patience, it's giving you peace, it will give you joy, and in the end it will be victory.
And it is victory, and it's his victory the way he saw your life, because he saw the future. He tried to ward off where you were heading, and you have to understand that.
Just want to ask you, as you're going through your current storms right now, because everybody has a problem, think back over your life and what God has already brought you through, do you remember how you trusted or not trusted him?
Yes.
How are you handling that now in this storm? Is it different? Have you grown? Since then, has your faith and patience increased? Have you been growing and coming up higher in him? You know how you will know if you are growing when difficult people don't bother you as they used to.
Yeah.
You could kind of turn a deaf ear or a blind eye and just say, it's okay, Lord, you just take care of that. And you know, and that's when you'll know you've passed that one test.
Exactly.
And that's when you need to celebrate a little bit. You know,
that's true.
And that you can have love. You can love them in spite of their ways of trying to destroy your peace, because they can't destroy the peace that God gives.
That's right. And if I look back over my life, 75 years, real quick, you know, I've been hit in the head with a full garbage pail in New York in a gang fight. I survived it. I fell down a flight of stairs where somebody pushed me and was in a coma. I was unconscious for a couple of days with amnesia. I survived it. You have to understand. I've been there, done that. It's been crazy, the type of life I led. But he makes you his child. He is your father. You have to understand that he loves you, and you have to move forward and don't worry about what the world thinks. It's what your father's looking at that counts.
We are all diamonds in the rough and works in progress. 2 Thessalonians 1:4. And this is a cause of our mentioning you with pride among the churches, the assemblies of God, for your steadfastness, your unflinching endurance and patience, and your firm faith in the midst of all the persecutions and crushing distresses and afflictions under which you are holding up. God notices. He notices, and he loves you. He's proud of you. Don't give up.
It's very important, not giving up. Okay, so remember, above all, Jesus is your umbrella in the storm. If you want to talk more about your storms, get on the internet or write us. Okay, so right now, it's time to go. Hey, tell your friends if you enjoyed it. And if you want a copy of this program, let us know. Also, we'll send you a CD. This is Tony.
And Laureen.
Jesus is your umbrella. See you next week.
Help Laureen and Tony in their ministry by becoming a Living with Victory partner. You can make a donation of any amount through PayPal at livingwithvictory.org. or send your check to Living with Victory, P.O. Box 1982, Maggie Valley, North Carolina, 28751. That's Living with Victory, P.O. Box 1982, Maggie Valley, North Carolina, 28751. You've been listening to Living with Victory with Laureen and Tony Giorgio, who for over 30 years have advocated for seriously ill children through Compassion Children's Foundation, today known as Living with Victory Ministries. Support for this radio ministry and our outreach programs comes from listeners like you. Many families that have children that need daily treatments for their illnesses are extremely challenged due to the cost of simply getting to the treatment facilities. Our Fuel for Life outreach supplies gas cards to families at 4 children's hospitals. You can support our outreach programs by sending your tax-deductible donations to Living with Victory, P.O. Box 1982, Maggie Valley, North Carolina, 28751. If you'd like to become a sponsor of this radio ministry, we'd love to hear from you as well. Thanks for listening.
So if life has left you kicking up dust, keep listening, keep looking up, and grab your umbrella, get ready to sing in the rain. Get ready, God in his goodness is gathering showers of grace. Get ready to sing in the rain.
The preceding program is available 24/7 on YouTube, GodTube, and at livingwithvictory.org.